One chance, one life, one take. Little room for mistake. Who do you
Welcome
wanna
to
be?
Dead Funny, Dead Serious. This
Who
is the
do you
series 30
wanna
End of Life
be?
Doulas in 30 Days. My name is Mitzi. I'm the host of this series. Today's End of Life Doula is Lashanna Williams. Welcome, Lashanna.
Thank you.
So Lashanna is, your business is AntaresWellness.com.
Yeah, Antares.
Antares, oh, I always get it wrong.
Oh, good.
Antares Wellness, and you are based in Seattle, Washington. All right, we're going to dive right in, and you can tell everybody about yourself, your lovely self. And we're going to start with why. Why did you get into this?
I sort of just came into it. I'm a massage therapist, and through that work, a lot of my clients were, older and in care facilities, and I started to notice the lack of touch that was happening. The lack of touch that was like a kind and one-way giving, because everything was like, here, let me take your temperature. Does this hurt? What does this feel like? Everything was really investigative. Investigative? I think that's the right word. I'm gonna go with it for now.
Yeah, go with it.
And it was a bummer. Like, one, there was just no relationship in there. And not saying that there was no relationship between the people, but with the touch. And like everything else, when you see something and you can't unsee it, I choose to do something about it. And so I started volunteering with hospice. So I volunteered with hospice for massage, and just started working that way, letting care facilities know that I would, I can come in one day a month and do some volunteer touch for folks who don't get to see people. And I started just doing that, and was introduced to Ashley Benham, who was the founder of A Sacred Passing. And I got to study under Ashley for a few years. And she taught a model of being a death doula that I really appreciate being like a foundation for me to grow and to learn from.
Great. Can you say a little bit more about the model and what that looked like at that time?
Yeah, at that time it was really structured, and it was very like, these are the things that a doula does, and it started with just really holding space, being present. How do you physically move when you're present? Like, what is your body language? What are you saying to people in the room? How are you holding the room?
Mm-hmm.
Who are you there for? Working on how do you show up for the dying? What are the ways? What are the ways that you as an individual human are good at? Right. And then some specifics around like our Washington laws. What can we do? What can't we do? Where are the resources? Just so teaching me actual science of death. Okay, you have 2 hours to do this. Do this after, between 4 and 6 hours. Some certain things like just around like the ways that the body breaks down after death, and things to be aware of if you're doing a home wake or a home funeral, ways to keep the body safe and cool. Yeah, just the rules effectively.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that.
I appreciate you sharing that with us, because it is a kind of a different path than what I've heard so far, right? Where it's a very structured path. Once you worked with Ashley, where did that go? We're kind of moving into how did you get to where you are today, which is quite far.
I started through my volunteer work and through community education with Ashley. I just started meeting people and caring for folks through and with her. And then when she decided to go to nursing school, she gave me the nonprofit. So my doula work slowed a little bit and my education work increased. And so the ways that I was engaging in death and dying was much more about education. And so it took me about a year to get the nonprofit back in like steady feet after the move. And then I was able to sort of refocus on my private work and take clients again.
Right. And the nonprofit we're speaking of, I just want to make sure it's A Sacred Passing, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
.org?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And all these will be in the show notes as well, but I want to make sure everyone knows because a lot of good information on there, right? Your education, it's part of the education work of having that nonprofit.
It really is. Yeah. Community death care and education, which is like, it's the root of my work. Even my private work.
More of the education piece.
The community care. Yeah.
Say more about that.
Yeah. My doula work is not how I make my living. I make my living through massage therapy and through art, and through making wonderful magical concoctions from my garden bounty. So I don't rely on my doula work for income. So everything I do is sliding scale. Like most of the time, I have to cover my gas. And I say most of the time because there have been times when my gas was not covered. And when my partner listens to this, he'll be like, hello. No, your gas isn't covered. So I gotta be like, most of the time I have to cover my gas. And that's like as low as I can go. Can't do that all the time. But
Right.
I haven't had a situation where I've had to say no, because life has given me things in a manageable pace where I can say yes. And people who can pay me, they pay me. I don't have to ask. I don't have to. Yeah, it's not a struggle. But because it's not where I make my money, I don't have to rely on it, and sort of like keep up with, I got to get a client. I don't have a client, like that hustle. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just so important for listeners to hear. The idea that that's really across the board. There's not very many end-of-life doulas that are making a full career out of it. And I think that's important to say at this point in time, right? We're recording this in early April 2021. We're coming from COVID, a really hard year for end-of-life anything, the world.
Shit for life, anything.
Shit for life, right? It was just the hardest year. And looking that we're rounding this corner and hopefully getting bedside again, and people are listening to this, and if they're aspiring end of life doulas, I think that these are important things to understand, is community care and what that means, why it means, and how are we going to balance these things, having a career and also being called to do this work. And I think you just explained it very, very well, so thank you. You did a lot of, it sounds like, hands-on work to get your education. And is there anything else that helped you learn what you learned?
I mean, I feel like I learn from everything. Everything teaches me about death. I've taken a bunch of end-of-life trainings. After a sacred passing was passed on to me, I needed to understand. So there's 2 levels for a sacred passing, and people would be like, "Oh, I want to register for level 2. I've done this. I don't need level 1." And I was like, "No, sorry." They kind of go together. And then I was like, "Well, shut your mouth, Lashanna. Like, go figure out what these people know. Maybe they don't need level 1. Like, who are, like, go see, go learn." And so I took 3 courses from other people around their end of life training. Holy shit, there's a lot out there. The only other school that I found that I felt comfortable with was Going with Grace.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And the way that Going with Grace engages in death and dying was also like from all these different spots and not linear. And I was so appreciative of it. Yeah. And that was one training that I was like, okay, shit. Like, it was fun and I grew in it. Yeah. And I appreciated it.
Thank you for sharing the positive aspect of that as well. And was that online or was that in person?
It was online.
It was online. Okay.
Yeah,
and it was still that beneficial.
Yeah. And it was before things were online. So I was like all up in my, oh, this is online. I was like, I had all my shit in my head and had to like put it in a box, and it was fucking amazing. And then I went to, because I'm naming names, and then I went to an Anelda in-person training and was like mortified. And it took me weeks to recover from the conference or the weekend, Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's okay. This will be in person and I'm going to meet people. And even the amazing people that I met didn't give me space enough to recover from the information that I had absorbed. And so like I had ill prepared myself for the trainings. Like if I had just swapped.
Yeah, it is. It's so different. They're all so different. And I think it's really important that we share what we have experienced from them, right? Everyone is different and all these trainings are different and everyone needs a different level of care and everyone's a different kind of doula. But I think it's important to hear what people experience. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we need to like shake that the stigma and the shame that like capitalism has given us to like not give this feedback about these organizations or trainings. Like, that's fair. It's totally fair. Let's talk about it, because if we talk about it, things change. And maybe this organization will be like, oh shit, we didn't think about that. Let's learn and grow. But for as long as people are like, no, we can't say anything bad about anything, shit ain't gonna change. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
sailor today.
No, I love sailors. I love swearing so much. We'll just lay all of it on the line. I had taken the eold training before, and we actually spoke about it before you took the training, because, I was like, I don't know, it's more about listening, about being a good listener. I didn't, I kind of shared that with you, that I thought you had a lot of experience before that, but I took it because I also was like, all these people are taking this training. What do they know? I'm not an end of life doula. I've said that on multiple episodes now. Like, I work side by side, and if my clients, grief clients, and the dying want an end of life doula, I wanted to know who I was referring to, what they knew, why they knew it, why they're doing things, right? Because it's part of the ethics. It's part of making sure that people are cared for and reducing death trauma, which I'm completely with you. We do have to shake off the shame and share our experience. It doesn't mean anything is, inherently wrong. And they're all, they're just so different. But if we don't share experience, if we don't grow and learn and adjust these methods that are happening, what are we going to do? Where are we going to be there? I think you're really we went straight into challenges and hope. Yeah. We kind of just rolled it all together, because I think it's more complicated than just being like, these are my X challenges, these are my hopes for this career. But now we're there. So do you have any specific challenges you'd like to share about getting clients, being with people?
Challenges are initially finding a nice collective to work with, other people to work in community with, because this work to do alone, it's not. This is me from my own point of view. It's not healthy for me to do the kind of work that I do alone. If I was a doula who did paperwork, I could do that by myself. If I was a doula who made legacy projects, I might be able to do that by myself. But the kind of work that I do, it's not done well by myself. Sitting a vigil, changing shifts and fully supporting folks. So finding a crew of folks to run with that you have like the same core beliefs, that are willing to share knowledge and learning and community, and who really care about each other, has been the most difficult part. Found a couple actually. It took a little bit, but it's happening. And my hopes, man, I want a company to hire my ass. I want someone to hire me. I don't want individuals to pay for my care. I want a company to do that. I am absolutely okay with that. If someone were to hire me and I could go do the things, I would be really happy. And I would like to see that. I think if there was with all of the other shifts and change that are happening, I really think that it's an opportunity for the medical world. It sounds so stupid because it's grown by white men, and to think that this is a possibility is whatever, Lashanna. But to pause and to realize, if COVID taught us all these things, one of those things is how important non-medical support is in a person's life. So understanding and learning that through the straight up absence of all outside folks, now when we can move back into this, how does the medical profession welcome that and honor its importance, and not meet it with arrogance and looking down their nose? It's an opportunity for growth, and it's an opportunity to improve their care, but they need to get the fuck out of their way. Elua always tells me, get out of your way, Lashanna, get the fuck out of your way. And so I'm like, you know what? You need to talk to Elua.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
100%. The medicalization of death and dying it's a hard fight, right? I'm over on the other side. I'm on the grief and loss side, and they medicalize grief through insurance. And what is that? What are we doing? Yes. How do you diagnose what grief looks like, right? And I think that you're a strong advocate for this, and I appreciate that. I'm not sharing a lot of my opinions on this show, but that's one of them. So just whatever, keep it. in the public, because we do have to come together in some sense to start advocating for this and really pushing, because someone should hire you. I hope this is like an earwig and like gets in someone's ear and starts that ball rolling. It just takes like this one moment, and we are rounding this corner, and hopefully there's a push, like you said, like all these changes are happening. What can this look like?
And just a softening and an opening. There's so many ways that we know that we can do better, and I'm not sure why we can't. I know what stops us, but I also know like
I saw in your face. If anyone's watching this on YouTube, you can see, but I'll just explain it to anyone listening to the podcast. Like, I was like, you know why? You do know why. She said she didn't know why, but she knows why.
Truth.
That's where we are. So
we are.
I love that, a softening. We do, as we're working with the humans, like there's a softening, and if we can just translate that into whoever needs to hear it.
This care is community care in general is what we need. Like when we're all standing by each other and doing just a little bit. So because we're recording this today, I would be extremely remiss not to say that the George Floyd murder trial is being aired on television, and some of the portions that have been shown were of bystanders, and each person saying a little bit, but all of those people saying a little bit was a lot, and that pause of those people to stay there, each individual feeling like I didn't do enough, was community caring. Right? It's people stopping, pausing, stepping out of their own self and caring for another. And so it's not just death work, it's everything. It's everything. That softening, like this is like a whole nother podcast, but it's that softening it can't just happen in one spot.
Yeah.
It needs to happen like with us collectively. I thought for a little bit, like the moments of collective grief that people on Earth were sharing would be like almost like a little bit harmonious, so where there would be like a shift, is what I'm seeing in my head, right? Like that's what I just see, something like the perfect pitch, and then something happens, like some sci-fi movie. But humans are stubborn.
Yeah, I think that's the understatement of this experience that we've had in the last year, and all this grief, it's disenfranchised at this point, to a point that how do we have a softening of it, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's becoming hardened in a way. Here we are having this conversation to hopefully open up a little bit of space and share it.
Yep.
Thank you for going there and keeping that on this podcast. I think that's really important, and it needs to be spoken about, and it needs those people that witnessed this experience with George Floyd. We have to just remember them as well. And again, death trauma, and all these people, this is systemic, in their families, in their communities, in the whole world now, because we're all watching this. Like, this is bigger and wider, and we do have to hold them and each other. And
that's torture. You don't, those are actual torture tactics, to sit and watch people be murdered. Yeah. Those people need community care too. Every single one of those people need a little like circle and, like love around them, supporting them. And I hope so much that they do.
I hope that, they have everything they need, and more. We always go there. And I appreciate you showing up like you do for the work, for podcasts, for she didn't know that she was going to be on video today, so you showed up for that too.
With my spring cheeks.
I just want to thank you again for being here, and we're going to continue conversations, because these are just also, gosh darn it, important. Find all of Lashanna's information in the show notes. Lashanna Williams. Say the name of your company again, because I screwed up.
Yeah, Antares Wellness.
Antares Wellness. Also, the Pro Collective, is that .org?
It is, yes.
procollective.org, and then a sacredpassing.org. So you're going to be able to find those. And then also everywhere, Instagram, Facebook. Yeah. Thank you for being here. all the people listening or watching this, if you're enjoying the series, it would mean the world to us if you like it, share it, leave a review, whatever the heck it is. It just tells us to make more of these, that this is important and this conversation matters, and that you're dedicated to this conversation of ethical end of life care. And after that, go ahead and hop on over and like us on Instagram and TikTok and be part of that conversation, because I don't know, we think that it's funny and we're just going to continue that. And that is everything for today. We will see you in the next episode.